Gio and I are here with Mark Burge, CEO and co-founder of Flex Workspace Solutions, aka FWS. He
So much
has
easier.
deep industry experience and he's also a repeat podcast guest. So we're thrilled to have him. We were just doing a little catch up and talking about how he was grooming his horse this morning and it made him think of Gio and his long wavy locks.
I
So,
know. It reminded me. I was like, oh man, I've got that podcast today with Long Locks Geo.
right. FU take two.
Yeah, FU take two. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so Mark, tell us about the horse. How did you get into
You know,
horses?
I've always been into horses. Had horses growing up as a
Oh,
kid.
in the
Uh,
you grew up in England?
yeah, back in England, my dad had
Okay.
those tiny little saddles.
Oh,
So-
yeah.
and then my wife
It's
and
not
I.
normal to grow up with horses, PS.
Well, no, I guess not. I
No.
mean, we did live more in the country. We weren't
Yeah.
really in the city, so it was, it was cool. I loved it. It was good. And then my wife and I, 3 or 4 years ago, decided that we would get horses, and so we did, and we love them. They're great. We
Wow.
have two Frisians, Pharaoh and Luca.
Wait,
So
do you board them at your home? Like, do you have enough space for them or do you have to board them somewhere
yeah,
else?
it's a funny story because we bought them and we said, we'll board them. We'll go and see them every day and feed them, groom them,
Mm-hmm.
make sure they know we love them.
Yeah.
And it sucked. We didn't go every day because the boarding place is like 20 minutes away.
Yeah.
Like this is ridiculous. So, and we were looking for a little place to where we could put them on some land, and that was ours. And we happened. I got my search parameters wrong on Landwatch, which happens a lot. And because we were looking for something, like an hour from Dallas, and we found this place on Toledo Bend Lake, 14 acres, barn, stables, decent sized home, right out on the lake. And it was like, okay, let's go. So I often say the only reason that we bought this house was because we bought horses.
Because you bought horses.
But
Yeah.
it's great. You get up in the morning, you go out and feed the horses, and ride them on the weekends, and
Yeah.
it's great. Yeah, we love it. So
Okay. That's where you
And
live
he's
full
like
time.
you. He's got a home in the mountains too.
Okay.
it's a shed, Giovanni.
Wait, what mountains?
It's a shed. Come on. Don't make it sound more than it is. So we have a little cabin up in, well, it's about 45 minutes from Telluride, in between Ridgeway and Ouray. And it
How do
quite
you get
literally
there?
is a shed. We
Telluride is so hard to get to.
No, we drive.
How many hours?
It's like, well, with the horse trailer, it's like 17 hours.
You take the horses to the
Yeah.
shed in Telluride?
Of course.
The horses summer in Colorado. The horses summer in
Huh.
Colorado.
Yeah. I mean, come on,
I
Jamie.
suspect it's more than a shed. I'm with you.
No,
Mara
it
is
is.
in
It's
Telluride.
350 square feet.
Wow, like a
Yeah.
tiny house.
I know, tiny house. It's
Okay.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
We've never had
Yeah.
this discussion. So
No, it's
the
super small.
Huh.
so the horses have a bigger barn than you have
Right.
a
Their
house.
barn is bigger than our shed. Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. They're treated far better than we are. But
Okay.
I
but
hope
it's
to have a
fun.
shed.
We love
someday.
it. We're fortunate. My wife gets to work, remotely, and we'll
Yeah.
pop up in, so.
And you take the horses. So I also grew up a little bit with horses. My dad is kind of like a horse whisperer. So I grew up in upstate New York and he would help the Amish train their horses. And
Oh, wow.
sometimes I think they must get, I grew up in a dairy farm. So, all sorts of weird
Sure.
trading happens.
Yeah, yeah.
He ended up with a bunch of horses. And one day, I don't know how long ago it was, a long time ago now, 15 years ago, he got kicked in the face by one of them and almost died. It was brutal.
Wow.
Yep. Still, he doesn't remember any of it and nobody knows why it happened. And yeah.
Well, they're beautiful and kind, gentle creatures, but
Yeah.
I mean, ours are 1,300-pound horses. I mean,
Right.
you
I
gotta
mean, that's,
respect
yeah,
them.
exactly. Yeah. And he still has them and it's totally fine. Totally
Wow.
fine. But yes, it was
Crazy.
pretty big deal.
Wow.
Anyway.
There's the horses for you.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk shop. So,
If we must.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, we must.
We must. Cool. What have you been up to? Fill
Oh,
us in.
just, busy. We were chatting earlier on about 2025 was, one of our slower years, interestingly enough, from a client acquisition perspective, but it was undoubtedly our best year in general. Just go show you can't measure a great year just by, sales and revenue alone. It was a year that we hired Jesse Mendez, right? Who I used to work with at Regis. I've known him for 15 years, and he really came on to help us with business development. And we soon learned early on in 2025 that our story and what we'd learned from the previous 2 years needed to develop a little bit. And we really honed in on a few things. Who are our customers? What do we do? Simplified a bunch of things and really got to understand who we were and the value that we add to the customers that we did have and who should be our customers in the future. And it's not everybody. And I think we're all tempted to want to do as much as we can for everybody. And that was probably a mistake. And so it was a great year from really just understanding who we are and what our strengths are and who really we should be talking to and engaging with. So it was a great year from that perspective. And this year's got off to a super strong start. So
what do you think is
busy.
kind of happening in the landscape in terms of like landlord mindset in like that might have made 2025? Like, are they waiting it out? Like, kind of what's the mindset, do you think,
I
into
think
2026?
we kept hearing over and over again when we spoke to people is, oh yeah, no, I've heard of these management deals. Let me get this right. That's where we put in all the money, take all the risk. You guys come in, get paid no matter what. And that's a management deal, right? That was a predominant perspective.
Well, we know where that perspective came from.
Sure. No, we
Yes.
understand. We don't need to name names. We then obviously explained that we do things a little differently and there is some investment on our part and it's very much a true partnership. And I think we've seen landlords go, okay, yeah, you're doing this because it's better for you than doing a lease, but it's not necessarily, ideal for us. And I think that a lot of landlords were holding out again to find a lease, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I totally get why. Right? I think we all do. But I think as time's gone on, we're definitely seeing more of a shift from landlords that are going, okay, hold on. So it's a little different than what we thought. You really are partners in what we're doing. We get a say, right, of what happens. Our vision is important. Yes, it's a more boutique approach. Actually, this makes a lot of sense. We are open to this. But as we know, there are plenty of folks out there that are still more than happy to go down the other route. We see it every day, right? But that's what we've seen, right? We've definitely seen a warming from landlords that we've been in discussions with for quite a long time and gone through quite a long process of determining whether we should even do this thing in the first place. So definitely a warming towards the concept of having somebody manage. What I think a lot of landlords now are really understanding is not just a co-working space. It really is an amenity for the building. It's very synergistic with everything else that they want for that building. They want it to be activated. They want it to be, they want a product that they can say yes to when people are not necessarily in a position or wanting to sign a 10-year lease, right? They want to say, actually, we can still help you. So I think there's a general warming towards co-working as a product and an offering within a building that makes sense. That's kind of my take on it. So
Yeah, I did an RFP process for a family office in California, and it was really fun to see. They were totally, what you just described, like on the strategic side of, no, we want this as part of the campus,
right.
as an amenity, as a way to activate the space, as a way to be sure that like people are coming, every day. And then, this space is like a big multi-use, buying lunch, doing all the other things, which you don't necessarily get from full-time office tenants. So,
but I think
really
you've
fun.
nailed it there, right? It depends on, it's a very particular type of ownership group, very
Yes.
creative,
Yeah.
very entrepreneurial.
Yep. Open-minded. These
very
guys had an
open-minded.
advisor who was like, this is what you want to do. And they got it, you know?
Yeah, there's still the vast majority of landlords still they want to lease, and they don't really care too much on the usage, right? They're not really that bothered whether it's co-working or something else. But I think we're having more and more discussions with landlords that are of the creative, entrepreneurial type. So yeah, again, it's who's your customer, right? It's not everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm usually Geo, I'll edit this out.
He's
He
just bailed
snuck
on us.
out.
He just snuck it. He bailed on us. He's going to go and get another granola bar
Right. It's
after his
totally
workout.
backing that guy. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, we'll talk about industry happenings until Geo comes back. So your team's going to Immersive in Dallas. Are you guys hitting Juicy in New York City in April?
No, but actually, I'm unfortunately not able. I was going to bought a ticket and everything, but Jesse's going to go for me in the one in Dallas, and I'm going to really try hard to make the Toronto immersive, but we're not going to be able to make it to Juicy, unfortunately. But
Yeah, me neither. I have
this is
not broken this to Liz yet, so
it's just
don't tell her.
they're all fantastic. I love what Liz is doing and the team over there. I love Juicy, but I'm finding this is a terrible excuse, but I'm just finding that the hours are limited, right? And the busier
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
which is again a terrible excuse, but it's just a reality. And I
Yeah.
think we're almost at that tipping point now where, bringing Jesse on and a few other folks, may actually give me a bit more time to
Yep.
engage with friends and folks at more conferences. But I'm trying to do at least one a year.
Yeah.
Either the GWA or the GC, both of which I love.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to kind of flip-flop it. So one year I'll do
Yeah.
GWA, and next year I'll do GC, but they're all
Yep.
fantastic. So
Yeah, I have never seen Kane Spaces, so that's also on my list. Wait, that one's in June. I need to earmark that in my calendar.
yeah, no, I know Gio's. I haven't even told him I'm not making it to Dallas yet, so I know he's going to give me a lot of heartache for that.
But you're
But
sending
I'll
the
make
team.
it up to him.
Your FWS will be represented, so
Exactly.
that's
Exactly.
totally fair. You will be and sending the team and not necessarily attending.
Yeah.
What are you most excited about in 2026? Project that you're working on, or just kind of what you see happening in the industry?
I think in the industry there's a bunch of stuff going on. Everyone's talking about AI. I don't know whether I'm excited about AI. I think it has a place. And I keep having to, with the downside to some of these creative entrepreneurial customers is that they're very involved, right? And I love it. We learn so
Yeah.
much. But I've got one or two in particular that are so about AI.
Mm.
Can we use AI for this?
Uh-huh.
Can we use it on marketing? Can we use it on,
Yep.
even down to like customer service?
Yep.
And, I'm totally on board. And I think where we are with AI right now is it definitely has a part to play, no doubt. I think we have to be careful how much of a part we think it has to play. But it's something we got to keep an eye on because it's just moving so quickly. I mean, I did a couple of tests from a marketing standpoint on using AI versus our SEO company, for example. And it really didn't do a very good job. It didn't stand up at all to what the SEO company are doing in comparison. However, 2 months from now, that might change. It's just moving so quickly.
100%. Yeah.
So,
Well, are you a Claude user? Because Claude Cowork has an SEO plugin.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
Interesting.
you should check it out since you seem to know enough. Yes, I think I love this conversation because I think, everyone in every industry is trying to figure out how does it apply, right? And as business owners, you want to be, can you use it for efficiency? Can you use it for business development? Like, right, how does it fit in? I
Yeah,
think but our industry is like a people industry. So
right. I was just about to say that, there's, you don't want to take people out of the mix. That's what we're about, right? We're about hospitality.
Yeah.
But I think there are some functions that AI can absolutely help with. And we are using it to a degree in some of the back of house functions. But again, watch this space, right? It's moving so quickly. No, I would never sit here and say, no, AI is not going to work for us on this particular application because I've tried it and it didn't work. Because again, I could try it in a month's time and
Yeah.
all of a sudden it works. So we've just got to
Yeah.
keep an eye on it, really. But,
Yeah.
I think that's fun
Yeah.
and exciting, right?
Mhm.
I think that, just from our perspective, I'm excited by some of the conversations that we're having. I'm very happy that we got to a point where, we understand ourselves, frankly, a little bit better than we did the first couple of years, where we were just scrapping and trying to figure it out as we
Yep.
went along. I feel like we're pretty more mature now as a business. I think certainly for us, the predominant drive is still going to be not can we get more customers? I know we can get more customers and grow the business, but it's that balance between people thinking that they want what, co-working and what
Mhm.
in place, and us having to say to some folks, actually, this doesn't make sense in this location. And that's, it's hard for any company to say, actually, no, we don't want your business. But I think it's such a vital part of what we do. We have to be able to give good advice, right? It's not just about, there's another dot on the map, and if it doesn't work, well, it doesn't work. We'll figure it out.
But I
We've
think
got.
that's so important. We need that in the industry.
Yeah, I think it's hugely important.
Right. And it's
Yeah.
better for an owner to hear that than not, and to go down the path of, certainly CapEx. I mean, depending
No,
on,
it's
yep.
a huge investment,
Yeah.
really. When you think about it, really big investment. I think we have a responsibility to help people make the right decision about that investment. And I will tell you this, you know, on more than one occasion, I have ended up saying to an owner, we'd love your business. We love the conversations we've had, but this particular location is it's just not going to work, right? It's too small. It's
Mhm.
in the wrong market, whatever the reasons are. And on both occasions, both landlords came back to me, 6 months later and said, hey, guess what? We just bought another building. Can you take a look at this
Yep.
one? And lo and behold, those
You've
made
built that trust that you'll give them a real answer, not.
Yeah, and I think it's important for the industry that we're seen
Mhm.
to operate that way. Not just us, but everybody. Of course, that's a
But
choice.
everybody is not. So that's why.
Well, it's a choice you have to make, right?
Yes.
You're either going to go down that road or you're not. But we've elected to go down that road because I think ultimately it results in probably a smaller business, but
Mm-hmm.
one that's I can sleep at night, which is
Yep.
good.
100%. I'm curious, then we'll let Gio jump in, back to the AI conversation and your background at IWG. They're so focused on like immediate response, right, to leads and managing leads through the pipeline. Does that like wiring not make you want to use AI for that use case?
Oh, I think that's one of those functions that AI today absolutely does work. We're seeing a few folks out there. There's Francis, I can't remember his company name now, but Francis, who was one of the
Oh,
early,
Unity. Yeah.
yeah, one of the
Yep.
early guys to come to our industry with AI. And I know a bunch of operators do work with it.
Yep. And there are other platforms as well, I
Yeah,
think.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the question is, do you go down that road, or do you use, we're just about to switch to Monday.com for
Mm-hmm.
their CRM platform, simply because we use it as a project management tool.
Yep.
And they have a very interesting AI kind of plugin, for want of a better expression. But to your point, I think that the speed of response task that we all face, right? And I think we all recognize is important. I think it's somewhere where AI absolutely can play a part today.
Yeah. What I'm keeping an eye on is conversion, right? Because I think you have to be really careful if a potential lead only interacts with your brand through AI. I think there are going to be some conversion challenges to, I think it has to augment or, be the after hours solution and not be the only.
No, I 100% agree, and I've heard arguments for both. I think the only question that we have with AI as it relates to that function is how quickly does AI hand off to a real person. That's
Yeah.
and I think it has put, my personal opinion is it needs to be quick.
As soon as possible. Right.
As soon as
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, if we believe, as we all do, I think, that responding to an inquiry in a way that lets the prospect know that we've heard them and that we have their information and that we're going to, you know, help them. I think that speedy response on that piece is critically important. I think AI can absolutely help with that.
Yep.
But the minute you get past that, for me, you know, I've seen and heard of examples where it takes, books tours, gives pricing. And again, I'm not saying that that's wrong. I just, you know, for me, I think that's a person. But
Oh, I think the tour booking is brilliant, especially after hours. I do think, though, you have to be,
after hours. Yeah.
yeah, yes, you know, or possibly during the daytime, but because I think that's what the user wants. But I think the challenge is going to be effectively inserting the human, because there's no reciprocity around showing up for a tour when you've not had any interaction with the human.
Right.
You know, when you've made some connection and you've had built some basic relationship, you're more likely to show up for a tour. Like, that's basic, you know, human behavior. And if you've only dealt with the bot,
Right.
that's what I'm seeing in the data I'm looking at, is I think there's a drop off. So
That may, again, that may improve over time.
Yep,
I think
could.
the question that, the real question for me is, it depends on who you're talking to, right? I
Yeah.
mean, if I make an inquiry, I'm absolutely going to, I almost hang up the minute I know it's AI or whatever, right? Because I'm old, right? I understand that. So I embrace that.
Yep.
But, you know, for someone that's not old,
Yep.
they may be much more willing to follow the process further along with AI than maybe I am. So, you know, there is that factor that
Yep.
pretty difficult to tell.
Totally. No, I think that's really real. We're spanning generations. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, Gio.
Gio,
So-
I was disappointed you didn't jump in there and interrupt me when I said I was old. Yeah.
Well, I got a better one. So you're British
Yes.
and 007 is sophisticated, charming,
Right.
highly skilled, expert in combat, espionage, and strategy, loves luxury cars and goes by Bond, James Bond. You go by Burge, Mark Burge.
That's it.
How would you explain yourself if I were to ask you your characteristics and your call sign?
Oh my gosh. Really? Well, my wife would tell you that I use the same passwords for most things, and it entails 3 numbers. And the last one is a 7. I'm probably giving
We're
away,
all going to log into
I'm gonna
Bert's
find my bank
accounts
account
after
empty
this.
now after this podcast. But yeah, so yeah, but I do like luxury cars for sure, of a particular type.
So again, sophisticated, charming, and highly skilled. What are yours?
Well, I
Ooh.
think the sophisticated and charming, we can just, you know, check in the box, right? That's a given, right? Depending on who you talk to. Highly skilled, you know, sometimes I feel on a day-to-day basis, you know, unarmed combat is definitely a skill that is required just to make it through the day. But it's going to be interesting to see who the new Bond is, actually, now you talk about it. But, you know,
Yeah, it's funny.
I think it was going to be Tom Hardy, but I don't think he's going to make it through. He suffers from the same thing as I do now, which is being old. So, you know, we're too old to be the Bonds now.
Well, at some point, Bond has to get old, right? I mean, he just gets wiser, right? So at this point, you're wiser.
Well, I think the last one just got killed off, right? So poor Daniel Craig, he got blown up on top of a missile silo. But
Well, the interesting part is now we really focus on prequels. So we're on
there
the
you
Mark
go.
Burge prequel. So
Yes, yes, yeah, exactly, yeah. I look pretty dashing in my riding gear when I'm riding the horses. So
we need a picture of that.
No, you cannot have a picture.
Oh.
We need a picture of this. How's how's the grandbabies?
They are awesome. Thank you. We're just about to head up to, so every year, Kim takes Liam for a ski trip over spring break. So we're heading up to Aspen to do that. But it's kind of morphed from the first year was Kim bundles Liam up. They get on a plane. They go to Snowmass because it's great for kids. And now, it's morphed into we're getting Airbnb. We're taking two of the dogs, not the horses, just two of the dogs. And I'm getting dragged along because, for the entertainment value. So that's it. I'm not going to complain. But so we'll be going up over spring break. But they're great.
Is
They're awesome.
is the youngest getting a little personality at this point? I mean,
Oh yeah, I have to be really careful what I say because Emily might listen to this podcast at some point. He's a handful. Let me put it. He is he's a lot of fun, but man, yeah, he's a handful. But two different personalities, right? But yeah, the little one, Logan, yeah, he's a great little kid, but man, he runs me.
how old is he now? 2?
2.5. Actually, I think he'll be 3 at some point this year.
It's
That's how good a grandfather I am. I
Nice
don't even
job.
know his birthday.
Sometime this year. Awesome.
wait, how far away do they live?
They live about 2.5 hours from us.
Okay.
So
Totally
close enough.
visitable. Yeah.
They come and stay at weekends and particularly, when school's out. And we'll take Liam because Logan's too young right now, but he comes with us to stay in the shed up in Colorado
Wow.
for a few weeks, actually. The first time he stayed with us, it was 7 weeks. And we had so much fun. We put him in rock climbing school and all that kind of, we kayak on the rivers and stuff. And at the end of it, my wife and I agreed that it doesn't make us bad grandparents if we say 7 weeks was probably a little too long.
A little too long.
So,
Wow.
so last year it was 4 weeks, and that was perfect.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I was thinking 3 might be the sweet spot. Wow.
But
You gotta remember, it's 350 square feet, right? It's
Yeah,
not
I
300
know.
square
Holy
feet.
cow. I'm
it's very
impressed.
cozy. It's very cozy.
This is like award-winning grandparenting to
I think so. Yeah, but
Yeah.
he runs off and does stuff on the land and
Right. No, I
climbs
love that
trees.
he wants to.
No, he loves all that stuff. So
Yeah.
he loves going to rock climbing school, so we'd drop him off there for a couple of days a week, and then he loves kayaking, so I'll take him kayaking on some of the around Gunnison and places like that, where they have some fun rivers. But he'll just take himself off, and my Indy, he's a King Shepherd, thinks that he owns Liam, right? So he's very, very protective of Liam. So the two of them just go off and run through the forest and do their thing. And
Oh my gosh. This is so good for a kid these days.
Liam's got a 140-pound King Shepherd running around, so I know he's perfectly safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, he goes off and does his thing and comes back with cuts and bruises and all the things.
As they should. As they should. Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, we digress.
No, I mean these are the important conversations as far as I'm concerned.
I agree. No, it's a lot of fun.
Well, I'm curious, an entrepreneurial question, because you just talked about family, you've got horses, but you're building a business. Like, how do you think about the balance? And then also, I'm guessing your team is dispersed. How do you kind of stay connected to your team? What do those systems look like?
Yeah, I think balance is what you need it to be, right? For some people, they would probably think looking after horses and doing all that kind of stuff is way too much effort. And it is a lot of effort, right? So it's not for everybody. I just happen to love it. And I encourage all of our team to, take time to have a good, we've got a job to do. We've got to get work done, but we've got to enjoy every aspect of life if we can, right? So it's important we set ourselves up to do that. And I think, you mentioned the dispersed team. Pretty much everybody works remotely. They visit locations,
Yeah.
obviously, and staying in touch, and I have to credit Christy, our COO, for this. She does an amazing job of keeping the team motivated, connected, just using, platforms like this. Quite frankly, the teams love it. Again, they're younger, so technology and this form of communication for them is no
Pretty
big deal.
natural. Yeah.
Very natural for them. And I think, honestly, when I think about people working in centers, right? And when you've got multiple centers, they work in centers before these types of platforms and this being an acceptable way to communicate. Those folks hardly ever saw anybody outside of
Right.
this.
Not a sense of team, right? They
No,
would have
not
been
at
like
all.
on an island all by
Right,
themselves. And you'd
absolutely.
have to fly to see, somebody have to fly in, much more often.
Right.
Yeah.
But the team loves it. They stay engaged. They're very creative on how they use it. They have team building exercises that I have no idea how you do that on Zoom or Teams, but apparently you do, and it works really well. But I think it actually makes us stronger as an organization when we can function. I mean, think about it. We can get a call from, as we do, get a call from somebody on the East Coast, and we're primarily
Yeah.
Dallas, Texas area based. There's not even there's subject of, can we support that customer on the East Coast when none of us are there? It doesn't even come up anymore. And I think it's not just the communication side of things, it's systems. If you've got a great playbook, you've got great systems. When we take on a new location, as we did recently in Nashville, it was seamless. Yes, we did fly out there for a
Mhm.
couple of days, but that was it. Everything else was pretty much done through, a remote approach, which, for us and every business, really embracing working in that fashion means you can be far more, geographically
Yeah.
dispersed and take on business all around the country, really. So it's a good thing. Yeah, for sure. Where are you today, Gio?
Yeah. Do you want to say a few words about where you are? I'm interested.
So I am in Austin working out of a space called Jevity that Liz Elam has been just gloating about. And so, funny enough, I had dinner last night with Adam Middleton and John Moyer from Very. And Adam was telling me how he toured the space last week and how amazing it is. And I'd seen pictures of it, Liz had shown me. And so it's like a wellness co-working space. And so they've got cold plunge saunas. They've got a yoga room.
Nice.
They've got like an incredible like gym that I'll send you pictures, Jamie, but you're gonna be pretty impressed. And then just a co-working area. And so it's funny, they've been trying to figure it out as they go. So I got the chance to briefly talk to one of the owners, and they've got a bunch of these awesome room booths, phone booths that are new, but apparently they didn't have them before. And so I think they're trying to kind of work their way. Not I think. I know they're trying to work their way through the numbers of necessary butts and
Mhm.
seats necessary to make some of these numbers work. And it's just north of downtown. Parking is a struggle for sure. But I mean, the inside. Once you get inside, once you figure out where to park and how to get in, the space is absolutely incredible in here. So it'll be interesting to see as they figure out the monetization component of it.
Yeah. Actually, make
But it's definitely extremely impressive and bougie. But it's kind of like a social club slash wellness.
It does.
They don't have any offices. I mean, they have some conference rooms and some random stuff. So they've got some hurdles to overcome, but it's definitely an incredible model. Lots of plants everywhere. So it's a cool space.
Awesome. Parking, everybody's nightmare.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. It's just, it used to be, I don't know about you, Jamie, but when you do it, kind of see your studies and stuff, parking is so far up on the list now
Yeah.
um, as to whether a space makes sense. I mean, it's so
Mhm.
crazy. Yeah, it's such a premium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's not something that's easily replaceable, right? If people can't park and get to you, I
Right.
don't care how nice your
If that's
space
the
is, they're going to
barrier, you
find
can't
somewhere else.
overcome it. You just can't. Yep.
It's one of those, I often talk about when we look at any of these projects, and even when we take over, existing locations here and there, I always break our challenges into two groups. You've got, addressable and unaddressable. Location is definitely unaddressable. You're not going to pick it up and move it. But parking is just one of those unaddressable issues too. I mean, it's almost impossible to find alternatives. And if you do, it normally involves like a 25-minute walk, which people just don't want to do.
Don't do. No, I was thinking it was like you talking about boarding your horses. It's like any friction, people just won't do it, unless it's required. And that's the thing about Flex is usually it's not required, right? I mean, unless there are cases when it is, but it's tricky. And then you kind of want to ignore it when you love everything else about the space, right? But you can't. Yeah.
30 days in, you're like, oh man, I'm so tired of walking 20 minutes down parking.
Right. Yeah.
No matter how nice the space is. But it's a challenge. It's difficult. Yeah.
Did you get a cold plunge in while you were there, Gio?
I literally got here 20 minutes before, so I haven't gotten to, but my stuff is in the car and I'm like, I've got dinner at 6. So I will get a workout in. I don't know if I'll get a cold plunge in. Depends if I have enough time.
Yeah, this place is totally my vibe. I mean, for $360 a month, sign me up.
Yeah. Kidding.
Yeah. Unlimited dry sauna, locker rooms, gym. I mean, come on. And workspace. Tell them I said they're underpriced.
Yeah. So you'll find this funny.
Figure that out.
Yeah. So you'll find this funny. So I walk in and I mean, it's pretty consistent on kind of how I walk into some of these spaces. And so I walked in and the guy's checking me in up front because Liz sent, I text Liz that we're having lunch tomorrow, even though she's actually working about 20 yards from me right now. But I was like, I'm on my way to Jevity. She's like right now? I was like, yeah. She's like, I'll send you a guest pass. I was like, okay. So she sent me a guest pass. I'm up front checking in and the guy's asking me a bunch of questions and, because he's trying to figure out, does he want to tour me? Do I live here? Do I not? Am I a potential member? All this stuff. And my typical question is always, and typically I do this while I'm being toured around the space. I'm like, so how'd you get here? What's your background? Because did you come from hospitality? Did you do hotels? Were you a bridal consultant, right? Because how many of these, wedding planners are like, I don't want to work nights and weekends anymore.
Were you a bridal wedding planner?
You'd be surprised. Jamie, you would be
I totally
surprised.
get it. I haven't met any wedding planners though. Huh. Maybe they all live in Texas.
It is pretty random.
No, and so either way he goes, his response was like, Jesus told me to come here. And I was like here, like Jevity here? And he's like, no, like Austin here. And then I found this place. And we start having a full-fledged conversation. And he's telling me
that is such an interesting answer. I love it.
Yeah. So he's from upstate New York and essentially has a Buddhist background and was running a spiritual wellness center. And somehow just Jesus told him to come to Austin, Texas.
He got a message. It's
well,
time
you're not
to go
going
to
to ignore
Texas.
that, right? When the big thing calls you, you're not going to say, no, I don't think so.
Wait, this is like Luke Wills with Luke moving to Italy. It's like, nope, no, it was clear. That's what was happening.
But again, I think it's such an interesting answer because like Luke was a believer, right? He was walking in the Christian faith. So for him, it's not, but you're Buddhist and all of a sudden you say, Jesus told you to,
right.
I mean, it's like, and so we started talking. And so they're doing a Bible study every Friday morning here.
Oh, cool.
And so he started sharing some of that. But again, it was just the response totally threw me off. I was like, and then Liz walked in and we started having that conversation. And so, so he was like, you're not on our thread. And so he put her on the thread for the weekly Bible study. So I thought it was pretty amazing. It was a fun little interaction. So I went to my car and brought him back a little Jay.
Oh my God. You're okay. Oop. Drop my microphone on me. Wait, so they hooked you up with a meeting room or?
No. So the first podcast I was sitting in a wellness room because there was no phone booth. So when I tell you they've got phone booths, there's probably about 10 of them.
Oh, 10? How many square feet is this space?
It's a pretty big space. I'd probably say it's 20,000 feet, 15 to 20,000 feet.
Wow. Okay.
Just not just of the workspace though. That's everything. Right?
No, that's everything. That's the
Okay,
locker
yeah.
rooms. That's the
Okay.
sauna. But they have probably 8 or 10 little like one person nooks, like booths, and then a bunch of long tables. But there wasn't anywhere to sit, so I walked in the wellness room, and basically that's where I recorded the first one, and this one I'm recording from a phone booth. But again, I mean, it's a beautiful space, but they're trying to figure it out. Lots of light, everything's high ceilings, great lighting.
Do they own the building? It looks.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, interesting enough, it's right down the street from one of Expansive's newer projects. The area around here was an old mall that has been now repurposed for like a community college and some different things. They're probably not going to listen to the podcast, so I don't feel bad, but either way, I'd say it to their face. Interesting choice of demographic, right? In the area. It's a lower income demographic. Funny enough, let's see if I can look it up while we're talking. And so it's just, obviously they did not have, I can't help it. Jamie just sent me something.
I'll send it.
And so
I see some editing coming in the future. I just
no, we don't.
There will be a little editing on the Mark. I'll loop you in.
And so again, it's kind of a gentrifying area, and it's Austin anyways. So there's a lot of gentrifying in parts of Austin to begin with. But it was an interesting choice of real estate. Like y'all heard me say multiple times, you can't recover from the location, the layout, or a bad real estate deal.
No, isn't that the truth?
And there's some hurdles to overcome, but again, really cool. And I'm trying to still look for demographic. Oh, here we are. So the demographics in the area, I mean, it's not horrible, but the median household income within 1 mile, 71,000.
Yeah.
So it's not horrible. I would have probably thought it was lower than that. But typically, as you guys know, we're looking for, 6 figures, if
we
not
like
higher.
6 figures.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
But then again, in some of those markets, you're not going to find a big industrial building like this is.
Well, I'm sure the rent reflects it too, right?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, this is it's an industrial building, so my guess is that's what's going to show rent wise.
Interesting. Cool.
But all right, Burge. So where are your travels taking you? Well, I mean, you've been pitching everywhere from Seattle to Miami, up to New York, Chicago.
We're in Seattle, man. Jamie and I have talked about that project before.
We collabed on that project, so I'm familiar with it. Yeah, that's why I love hearing the updates.
Such a fun project. It's right down on the pier. It's Pier 70. That in itself brings its own challenges. I would say, I was telling Jamie, but we're kind of like almost property managers as well as managing the co-working space. Fantastic ownership group, just enthusiastic, high energy, incredibly demanding, but fair. It's total tech. Almost every company in there is AI something. Beautiful spot. We finished phase 1, or almost finished phase 1 of the finish out. There's 2 more phases to go. 50,000 feet of co-working. So it's big, right? But just super high energy. I was telling you, Jamie, our clients today, our customers, are these entrepreneurial, really creative, visionary owners. They're not your, institutional owners. And they really want to, they're looking for a group that will, work with them to bring their vision to life. And this is not a cookie cutter, IWG type deal. It's been a disaster, right? For both IWG and the owners, because we've had to pivot as the vision has developed. And Jamie, you'll remember, no one was really sure what this was going to be, right? We just knew it was going to be something. But it's been such a fun project. And again, I love the ownership group. They're amazing people. But it's still a work in progress, without doubt. But I think, it's going to be an amazing spot. So yeah, Seattle. We're looking in Virginia. We're working with a group in Virginia right now, and then something else outside of San Francisco. And actually, they're one of the owners where we said, actually, this one's just not going to work. And we're actually working with 3 projects with them now. So sometimes it's good to say no, right? Not that we said no, we just said it wasn't a good idea. But yeah, so you know us, Gio, we're not necessarily, we don't have a map that we look at every day and say we need to be here, here, and here. It's very opportunity led. You know, no matter where you call us from, we're probably going to be able to make it happen if the project makes sense. So yeah, we love it when the phone rings. We love it when people call us and say, "Hey, we got this cool projects, and no matter where it is, what do you think?" And that's when the fun starts, really. So
It's funny you mentioned size, right? And what is the smallest you'll do? Because at one point you took on a really, really small place in Dallas. I want to say that was like 3,200 feet or something. How big was that old intelligent
no,
office, or what was it?
oh no, that was
Oh
super.
no, that was the other group based out of
Yeah,
Australia.
yeah, it was. Oh man,
What
gosh,
was it? What did I just forget? What was the big surf court?
Surf Court. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh.
So that was, you know, I think when there's an existing space, which this was, and for whatever reason it didn't work out, right? There's lots of reasons. It doesn't have to be a terrible story, but there are some times where just that relationship ends. The landlord has got a choice, right? Do I white box this and try and find a long-term tenant, which is expensive, especially when you're trying to white box our type of finish out? Or do I give this another go and maybe do it differently this time? So that was that space. Gio. There's no way we would have advised anybody to have done that.
Yeah.
It not been that it was not operating space. And we, even with that one, we entered into that on a, hey, it is what it is. Yes, it's not very big. Let's see if we can generate some revenue for you. But candidly, longer term, you probably need a different solution.
Well, that was what, 3 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess my question is, would you do that today, as big as your team's gotten and opportunities that are being given to you and everything else?
Yeah, we would. In that scenario, we would never, if somebody came to us and said, I've got 3,000 square feet of space, I want to finish it out and do co-working, there's no way we can do that because it doesn't make sense. You and I both know that. But if it's already there and it doesn't require any capex and the landlord is trying to fill a gap until the longer term strategy can be put into play, yeah, we do it, of course. But I think we know the sweet spot is typically around 20,000 feet. That's my opinion, right? 20, 25, 15 could work for sure. You know, I think some of the really large foot plays can be challenging, but particularly in a down market, there's a lot of space to fill. But no, we still do smaller ones. But again, it's got to be a very unique situation. It's got to be one that is very, very light on capex requirement. If it's light on capex, sure, we'll do the smaller ones. But there's no way I'm going to stand behind, 150 bucks a foot on a space that's never going to make the money.
Yeah.
Unless it's already done. So, but there's a few of those scenarios for sure.
Well,
Travel
wise, as far as for fun, what do you have coming up? Said you're doing
going to Snowmass, which is just outside of Aspen with Liam and the crew, which is going to be fun. And then of course, May is around the corner, and May is typically when we say, okay, let's head on up to cooler climates.
let's unwinterize the shed.
Yeah, which is a
we
whole
affectionately
thing in
call it now.
itself, by the way. When you've got to, when you shut it down in the winter, you've got to make sure there's not a drop of moisture in any pipe. Otherwise, when you get back, they're all going to be busted. So, but you've got to do the opposite when you get back up there, which turn everything on and, and it's, 350 square feet, that's a lot of space to get ready, right?
That's awesome.
So yeah, when it starts to get too hot in Texas, there's not really a time. It's more of a barometer.
Well, I'll tell you, it's going to be a
Just
brutal
now.
summer.
You
It's going to
think?
be a brutal summer. Well, we had such a mild winter that
Yeah, we
I think
did.
it's going to be bad.
Yeah,
I mean,
we
other than
did.
that 1 week, it was incredible. It was like spring all
Yeah.
winter long.
It was amazing, really. But yeah, the downside is we may get some extra hot days for sure.
Without a doubt.
So
All
doing
right,
that, I'm
Jamie.
telling Jamie that I haven't broken the news to you yet, but I'm not going to be there in Dallas. One of our dogs had surgery and the recuperation is challenging. However, before you get too upset with me, I can see that look on your face. You get to meet Jesse, who's coming to represent the team and
Nice.
do the property tour. You'll love Jess. He's awesome.
Well, that was a tease because I was actually excited you weren't coming because we've got like 80 seats and 100 tickets sold. So I'm like,
Oh, then you're welcome.
but just we're literally, I told Miranda to send out one last notice that says we have standing room only seats or tickets going. And
Well,
so
that's credit to you and the team for doing such a good event. But I am going to do my level best to make sure Toronto's on the. But you'll love meeting Jesse. He's great. Spend some time with him. He's just a super nice guy.
well, you will be missed one way or the other.
Well, no, he'll be there for the center tour, so that's still on.
Cool. Well, I'm
So,
super excited to allow people to see the guild. And
it's such a great location. Well, great product, but
well,
I think
yeah.
the location could always be better. But
Well, it's such a great example of a project that someone else couldn't make work because they just didn't understand the industry and the need.
yeah,
and
for sure. Yeah.
the deployment that you can execute in a different way.
Well, and it's a great example, honestly, of the type of landlord that we were talking about. Very entrepreneurial, very creative, open-minded. I mean, they've invested a ton of money into that building in general. I've lost count of how many tenants they now have in the building that came from CoworkingSpace.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's been a bunch.
That's the dream.
Yeah, it's been a bunch. I mean, more so than any other location. I was going to say that we've managed, but frankly, any other location I've ever been aware of in my career, just bunch of clients. They love the building. They've just spent like, I don't know, 80 million bucks on the lobbies. And also it's a beautiful, beautiful finish out. And clients just want to stay in the building. When they get too big, we just hand them over. So it's great.
That's
Okay,
awesome. Well, I'm excited to show it off to people.
Yeah. Good deal. All right. What else you got? Is that it? Are we done?
I got to roll.
Okay. Me too.
We're done for now.
I got horses to feed.
Exactly.
All right, guys. Always awesome.
All right. Y'all have a great day.
Great
Love y'all.
to see
Bye.
you. Thanks,
Bye.
Mark.
Bye.